then we'll start with the forum proper. Prof?
Thank you. Thank you, Revati. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for participating in this forum on shadow teachers. I would like to also extend my sincere appreciation to the speakers who have agreed to come on board to discuss today's topic. Ms. Fiona Ho Jia Ling, early interventionist from the Happy Leaves Autism and Special Needs Therapy Center. Ms. Nur Diana Sulaiman, Head of Learning Support, Primary 10B Schools, Satya Eco Park. Ms. Stephanie Lo Wan Ling, EAP Supervisor and Project Manager for Early Autism Project Malaysia. Ms. Lee Yu Ying, Behavior Analyst and Co-Founder, Shining Star Learning Hub. Looks like we have a fantastic array of speakers with different specialized areas as well. So thank you so much for all four of you for kindly accepting our invitation to be speakers at this forum this morning. My greetings as well to the team at School of Education, Head of School, Dr. Logendra Ponnaya, Program Director, Dr. Mindy Tay, Dr. Lee Ling, and Revati Ramakrishnan, Senior Lecturer and the Moderator today, staff and students of the school and all the members of public who are attending the event today. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to share with all of you that we just received a very good news this week that Taylor's is now ranked top 50 in Asia by QS World University Ranking. We are in fact the only private university to be ranked top 50 in Malaysia. I would like to take also this opportunity to congratulate all the academic teams and thank the thank the support of the people who have believed in the quality of education at Taylor's. In the last decade or so, special education has been gaining momentum in Malaysia, and more so, it has received attention from various levels of stakeholders. At the national level, there have been many policies and campaigns conducted to increase society's awareness on this topic. More budget has been allocated to the education sector, to which Special Education Division, Ministry of Education, has been providing educational opportunities and facilities to meet special education needs of the individual children. Partnerships are also increasingly forged with companies and NGOs for the betterment of special needs community as a whole. Efforts have also been taken at individual educational institutions level. Taylor's University has embarked on this journey on early childhood education and special education through our Bachelor of Education program, specializing in both areas, early childhood education and special education needs. Our education students now can choose these options as part of their specialized areas to be a future teacher. We will be launching the special ed component in March next year, while the early childhood education component has kicked off this year. We hope with the attention that we are giving at Taylor's on these two specializations, we will be able to produce top-class graduate teachers who are not only passionate with their role as teachers, but will also be highly competent in his specialized position as a teacher. This, we believe, will add value to the present ecosystem, if not enhance it further for the benefit of our community in this area. With the search of inclusivity and inclusive education, there are increasingly more opportunities for special needs children to continue their education. For example, some schools aiming at providing the optimum educational experiences for children with special needs enroll by hiring a pool of trained teachers. The better known positions are the therapists and special needs educators. But what about shadow teachers? A shadow teacher is looked at as a para-professional, or in simple word, a teacher assistant. They are an extremely valuable resource for encouraging the young students under their care, be it by providing academic support or promoting inclusivity. They also have a very crucially important role in the learner's experience, yet their existence is not known or less acknowledged, usually to those outside the industry. So that is the focus of our forum today. Who are they? The shadow teachers. We need to celebrate these unsung heroes. And with that, I would like to thank you once again for joining us in Taylor's journey towards a more inclusive society. And before I end my opening remarks, please allow me to thank the organizing committee from School of Education, both academic and students, for pulling off such a meaningful topic this morning. Thank you so much. And Revati, you can take over.
Thank you, Prof. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to our forum. So we've got, before we begin, let's get introduced to these 4 beautiful ladies on the screen. So we'll just start with a very short introduction of each of them. So instead of me introducing them, it'd be really nice to hear about them from themselves. So now I don't know how they are arranged on your screen, but they are arranged in, I'll go in order where they are arranged on my screen. So I'll start with Miss Fiona. A couple of words.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Fiona. I'm an early interventionist from Happy Leaves, which is located in Satya Alam, and we do actually have another branch in Kelana Jaya. So I'm actually in the early years education line for I think around almost 7 years. And last year I was like a full-time private tutor and also a PLA. And this year I actually joining the Happy Leaves to become one of their team, which is the early interventionist. So I think that this is my, I'll just make it short introduction. So I think that that's all. And then we'll leave it for later. Is that okay?
Yep, sure. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks. Okay, Miss Yuying.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Yu Ying. You can hear me well?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm the co-founder, one of the co-founder of Shining Star Learning Hub. I have been a PLA. I'm mainly working with families and children with on the autism spectrum. We do have children on the ADHD spectrum as well with ADD. And in my work, we do a lot of supporting work with schools from early intervention setting to transitioning into school, from integration to hopefully we can do more of inclusion work, which we are targeting to focus more right now. And yeah, we train therapists and we train inclusion support facilitators. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here today and to really support Taylor's initiative to really form an inclusive community, especially in education setting. Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Ms. Yuying. Ms. Tiffany.
Hi, morning, everyone. I'm Tiffany, and I am a supervisor at Early Autism Project Malaysia. So we're in Bangsar, and also we also have a center in Sunway Pyramid near the Parenthood Center. So what we do is we provide one-to-one ABA therapy for kids with autism. And because we work with such a wide spectrum, and all the kids on the different spectrum as well on the spectrum, so we do support kids who, you know, can go to school as well. So we provide PLA support and work with schools such as Taylor's. So we work with Taylor's International School as well. So that's I guess in a nutshell what we do. But our main day-to-day job is really to run that therapy session for our kids. So we have one-to-one therapy, we do home-based, we do center-based. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Okay, and Miss Diana.
Hello, My name is Miss Diana, and I am from Tembe International School. We are based in Setia Alam. I'm the head of the Learning Support Department, so I'm in charge of the support provision for special educational needs. I work with the children as well as the teachers and with parents. So we work with what's happening at home, within the schools as well. We train the teachers so that teachers are also able to support our children as well as support our shadow teachers as well. So yeah, we're it's a definitely an interesting topic to get into and well, in a way to bring awareness to this to shadow teachers. Yeah.
Okay. So just to let everybody know, all these ladies are underplaying themselves, okay? I read their resume and they are super impressive. So anyway, we'll start proper. Okay, so our first question for all of us to start the forum with. Now I know you all are in this line, but when was the first time that you've actually heard of this concept of shadow teachers or shadow aid? Like, because like what the intention of the forum is to give them the highlight to speak about them. So when did you guys actually know about it? Was it before joining or after joining the industry? Yeah, a little bit about that. So maybe Tiffany, you can go first.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Ravati. Yeah, so honestly, this is my 6th year working in the field. I came out fresh graduate and this is my first job as well. So honestly, before this, I have never heard of the term shadow teacher. This is also, I think this gives more weight because actually my parents ran like a kindergarten business, has been running a kindergarten business for 20 years. And all these years, I have not heard of the term shadow aid. So when I stepped into this field, then I was like, my eyes were open, to the term shadow aid and just what this role entails and what the person does as a shadow aid. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. So as when I started the job is when I heard it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about the rest of y'all? Like, anyone wants to chip in?
I would say when I did my internship in psychology and I was working in a nonprofit organization, it's a church, and they were offering a special education needs program for all special education needs children. And I was an intern there, and it was quite surprising when there was a child that came in. He had cerebral palsy, and he had a special shadow aid with him, and I thought, oh, who's that? Is that his helper? Is that his personal assistant? And I started wondering. Obviously, as the more I observed and the more I understood his difficulties, the more I realized who that person was. Obviously, at that point, I didn't know it was called shadow teacher. Um, I thought it was what was the other term? A personal learning assistant was one that I was familiar with. Though the word shadow teacher, initially when I first thought about it, was, wouldn't that be someone who shadows the main teacher? So that was what my first thought of a shadow teacher. But yeah, definitely um, uh, eye opener, similar to Miss Tiffany, how integral their role is in helping that child access what's happening in that classroom.
Okay, so why is it that, similarly, I didn't know of their existence until I started teaching myself. So why is it that in Malaysia, that they are not known? Miss Yui? Yeah.
I believe yeah, this role has been around for a while. So
Right. So why is it that people don't know about it? Like,
I believe the population of special needs children who's being mainstream, like me entering the mainstream system, my time, we're talking about 15 years ago when I was in, early, working with early intervention under supervision from supervisors from EAB, the pioneer at that time. Yeah. And then, when the child needs to go to school. So we are being transformed, from being a one-to-one therapist to be trained additionally to transform as at that time is being like the role is being the little birdie on the child's shoulder, like we are basically like the shadow, to accompany children to be integrated at that time, I would say, integrated into the mainstream environment when the child is ready. So I believe, at that time, it is quite, it's like, whoa, what? At that time, we basically, the supervisors and us, we basically have to market ourselves with the child. So the supervisors will have to go to the school to tell the school management, we are coming with our child, don't worry, the child has autism, but he's functioning all right, this and this that he can do. And don't worry, we have another personnel who come in together as well. So you just have to provide us with the environment and the rest we will sort it out. Yeah. So I believe it's at that time in a professional, international school setting, we also realized that not all teachers are aware of that at that time, of this profession at that time. And I believe also the percentage of children with SEN to have the opportunity and the resources to be mainstream, to be integrated into the school system is in a very, very low number. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Because so for those for those participants who are not aware, now in our country, we have, of course, the public sector schools that caters for SEN, and that's very structured. We've got the special needs school integrated program, inclusive program, and so on. But the private sector is also a very big stakeholder, right? We're a big contributor. And we at the private side run things differently. So I guess my question is, so in the government sector, okay, they may not be known as a shadow aide or whatever, but they are known as a teacher assistant, and they're part of the structure. But that's not the case for private, though, isn't it? It's like, so how does private institutions, like, all of y'all are from private sector, so how does it work having a shadow teacher in the private side? Maybe Fiona, you can go first.
All right. About that, to be honest, I was in the early years education line and I was working in a preschool. So I do not know that the term of shadow aide during that time, because I think that was like 2019 when I was like entering the working industry, early years industry. And from my previous workplace, they actually stresses out that the kid is just like a behavioral problem, but there's no certain diagnosis. And we couldn't actually provide any much more, guidance support for the child. So, and that what we did was, we as a preschool teacher, we will need to actually figure out ourselves, what is this child doing and why is he like that and all that. And it was really hard for us to manage his future milestones and development. And then we actually, what I did was I actually Google it up, like, why is this child like this and this? And then I have to tell the parents that they have to contact the private sector, to actually provide a helping hand on this, so that we can work hand in hand together. But they can't really understand why, because I believe that most of the parents, it's a very challenging and it's a very hard thing to accept that the child needs help and they're still so young. So what private sector will do is, we will actually see the child and diagnose the child, definitely by a registered clinical psychologist and also child psychologist from that part. And after that, they will have to come for therapy and all that. And if, let's just say, they would want to transit to a normal school, for example, international school or private school or anything, we will actually suggest a way on how to have them to have a smooth transition to the school itself. Yeah, so like, I believe that private sector, all of us, I'm not sure which private sector you're actually trying to say, but for me, I feel that private sector means that the therapy center, the school, and also the help from any hospital, which is with professionalism as well.
Yeah.
So I think that all this private sector, they would need to work together in order to provide a better path for the kid. And also, it's not easy to actually have everyone's idea or thoughts into to make like a smooth transition for the child, because some doctor might see something differently and some psychologists might see something differently. So we have our way, they have their way, and we have to compromise that. I would say it's not an easy task. We really need to compromise. And if, let's just say, the parents are, because it's their children, so they might be a little bit protective, and that's definitely extremely fine, because that is like from nature itself. But we would need to actually tell the parents that why not, let's just try this method. And firstly, they would need to accept the suggestion from us as well. Yeah, so I think that the private sector is actually like facing much more what do you call that, issue, that some parents might think that I send my child in and I actually hire a personal learning assistant, my child can change to be a normal person, and they're not diagnosed with ADHD or autism or any much more syndrome. So they have this like change grow mindset for the child, and some they even went to extreme. But what we need to tell the parents is we private sector are here to actually to help your child to improve, so that when they are back to the society and everything, they are able to be independent as well. Yeah, I hope that that's that.
Sure. Thanks.
I believe that I go a little bit further, but yeah, this is what I really want to share.
Thank you. Actually, like, I had a next question, so your question kind of
sorry.
Your question, no, it kind of created the way though for me. So my next question is actually for like Miss Diana and Miss Ewing, either one of y'all, since y'all are in like a in a school setting and a supervisory setting. So is there any type of educational or training required for this job beforehand?
Diana,
well, it's for me, because we don't at the present time, 10B schools, we are allowing parents to hire shadow teachers from other agencies or external. There are some international schools that offer the shadow teachers within the schools, but there are also schools that are asking parents to hire hire shadow teachers from the centers, or from we also have freelance shadow teachers at the present time as well. So it depends. At the present time, what I'm seeing is that the training definitely has to happen, though I'm not quite sure. I've actually looked it up myself. Is there such thing as called personal learning assistant training or shadow teacher training? In fact, I've even asked all the shadow teachers that's worked in my school, and they have said there's no specific training, though when they do come from a center, they do say they have an inset, so an in-house training. So that is depending on the center. So I'm sure Miss Ewing, from her center, she has a different set of training for her personal learning assistants, whereas a different center might have a different set. But what I can say for sure is that what they need is an experience working with special education needs, because working with special education needs, for me, I've worked with special education needs for 12 years, and I find them easier to work with than normal children. Okay, but someone else might not think the same way, you see. I find normal children more challenging than special educational needs, because I understand special educational needs and I understand how they think. So if you've not worked with them, you would find them challenging. You would not understand why they behave the way they behave. You would not be able to change or help them, and therefore you feel quite almost defeated. So someone who needs, who works in this field needs to have that training, needs to know, okay, what is autism? What is dyslexia? What is this? And what is a behavior management? How do you manage behavior in a positive way? How do you, and it's also another one is anger management, because you may not have anger management, but when you see a child throwing tantrum and you can't support that child, sometimes your own feeling of not being able to support and not being able to be of use comes to light, and you would feel like, oh my God, I can't help. I'm losing temper, I'm losing patience. And you can sometimes feel like, oh, I can't calm them down. And I have seen some teachers losing patience, and they move away, and they kind of, okay, I can't. So, but then that's what a shadow teacher does, right? A shadow teacher is that kind of mediator. So I would say definitely the training needs to involve a behavior management aspect. It has to involve a psychological aspect of knowing all the special educational needs. But I'm sure Miss Yu Ying will share much more than me.
Yes, Miss Ewing, anything on to add?
Yeah,
Because I've already thought of another question to intercept and ask.
definitely backing up what Miss Diana said. Yeah. Well, like for currently shadow teachers, we talk about 15 years ago during my time, very old time, it's not really that heard of. Now we can actually see there are posting of, parents looking for shadow teachers. Like if you're in the Facebook parents special needs group, they are always on need, and they are always also becomes like the must-have requirement for private international school for special needs kids to come in school with diagnosis. Not necessarily looking at the child's ability, but as long as you have a diagnosis, oh, shadow teacher, we need a shadow teacher, you go find one. Okay, I give you a list, you go call, and then, get someone, then only you can enter my school. So it is something that we can leave that for discussion later, but for come back to training, definitely yes. Yeah, because shadow teacher are the person that from a school perspective is that you guys are the one that who know the child better. Okay, so you guys are the one that who's gonna set the foundation and make the change. Yeah, the mindset is like that. So what we do as a shadow teacher in the classroom, yeah, actually sets the expectation, and we are actually educating passively to the school system that this is how it works. This is how special needs children should be and can be included in your classroom. So it is important that the role that we play every day in the classroom, where we stand, what we do, when do we intervene, when do we back off, when do we include teacher, when do we support teacher, when do we hold the teacher and bring her, come on, you can bring, my child can be part of it, can do, So it is an important role as a shadow aid or PLA or whatever that, the name that comes right in now. And I would say for in my setting, our new staff who comes in, there's 2 levels of trainings. Yeah, the first level of training is definitely the foundational interventionist training. So learning how to execute program, teach program, deliver program, intervention program. Then before the therapists can be transformed and equipped to support children in school, they have to have at least certain amount of experiences handling children on the spectrum or, in the special needs setting, and a top up of trainings of, socialization, understanding school dynamic, understanding education system, understanding how to generalize skills before they are allowed to go to support children in school and support teachers and schools. Yeah. So because we want to do it right, because what we do sets the expectation, and we are doing a passive education to the school setting, private school setting, in how inclusion should look like. So yes, training must have, yeah. And before you can call yourself a shadow teacher, like backing up what Ms. Diana said, behavioral management, understanding the needs of children with special needs. What are your role as a teacher, as a shadow teacher? what are your role to work in partnership with the teacher in the school? Yeah, and when are you planning to lose your job? Because shadow teacher are the one that who's working towards losing their job. This is what we want, it's sad, but that's the truth. If you can really work in partnership with the school, that's the target. Like, the children has to be as independent. The classroom teacher and the peers, the whole classroom, should be as independent as soon as possible, having a children with special need, being part of the classroom, being part of the classroom system. Yeah.
That's actually a very, I've never thought of it that way. When are you ready to lose your job? That's a that's a good one. Okay, so we can say that, okay, there are education. Okay, not so much of education thing, like a degree or a diploma in ECE psychology are the more common ones, but for sure they do require some sort of training, right? And I liked how Ms. Diana spoke about the kind of traits you need to have, especially anger management and stuff. But is there any specific technical related knowledge like a shadow teacher needs to have, like for example, like any sort of mechanical or very technical related knowledge that a homeroom teacher or a class teacher may not need to know, but these teachers do need to know?
I think, sorry, can I just jump in?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of in-house training, like what everyone has mentioned as well, because there's no particular degree or course that trains on how to be a shadow aid.
Correct. So that's the thing. Theory is one thing which we can Google. I mean, to be honest, but the technical, like the hands-on part, which is the one the training is required. So as a shadow teacher, any specific technical aspect that comes with the job that they like it or not, they need to know?
I think one thing is to understand the role of a shadow teacher or shadow aid, and then that would explain some of the skills that that the shadow aid would need. So I think some of the things that just come out of the top of my head would be things like just very good observation skills, very, very good to just picking up not just how your child that you are shadowing does in school, but how is he interacting with everybody else in school. Because at the end of the day, like what Ms. Lillian said, we want to try and work ourselves out of our job, and if the more that we see our child becoming independent, that's great signs for us. So I think as a shadow aid, things that we would really need are knowing how to sort of help our child integrate into his or her classroom. So observation skills, very, very important. I think a lot to do with, we take data as well. So then, for example, we can check in with the teacher and then we check out, okay, what's happening today? What are some, I think to understand the child better as well, what are some trigger points that we think that, oh, okay, this my child would struggle with. How can I prepare preventatively first to help the child cope with that upcoming situation in the day? So for example, the child, that he really doesn't like his math class, for example, right? And today there is math class. So then in the beginning of it already, you already have these preventative strategies in place, such as, hey, friend, or hey, buddy, today we have math class coming up. If possible, we can actually try and check with the teacher what we're going to learn today, and then sort of just let him or her know some upcoming things that he may face. But hey, we're going to make it a challenge, or we're going to, just send some reminders and some expectations just to give that child the predictability. Because, for example, like kids with autism, they don't sit well with a lot of changes or sudden changes that happens in their day-to-day. So then having this predictability would definitely be very, very helpful. So there's no particular skill. So I think it's just having very good observation, but then also knowing your child well enough, reading the IEPs, throughout the school meetings and all of that, understanding what is the exact part, or which part of school is your child actually struggling or finding it challenging the most. And that's where we sort of like, okay, this is the part where I jump in. And there are most parts actually, we're actually not right next to the child, because at the end of the day, we want the child to respond to the class teacher, and fade ourselves back. But then the skill that we need to have then is like to know when to jump in. So then that would be, I guess, one of the skills. I'm not sure if anyone else has anything else.
Is it all right if I would like to actually share my experience, like from being
please,
employed?
please do. Yes, please do.
I don't actually get any training because I was hired by a private family itself. Yeah, and like I do not know what is personal learning assistant, and I was like, wow, kids nowadays have learning assistant, PA right behind them, hold their back, do mini meeting. And I was like, I don't know how it works. I literally don't know how it works. So I actually went for the interview. So I couldn't actually disclose the information about the private family, but what I did was I went in, and then I have 3 interviews. From one is the father, the mother, and also the grandparents. So he was really the golden child of the family. So he has no diagnosis or anything, but from what I see, he just they just want to keep him safe in a school zone because they don't know what will happen in the school and everything. And from what I can see, that he just has like a behavioral anger management problem. So I did not receive any training. I did not receive anything there. So what I did was, I really love kids. That's why I was in the early years education for this long. And it's something really refreshing for me last year when I actually joined in the PLA line. And what I believe that what traits that we need to have as a PLA or Shadow 8 teacher is, you need to be observant, like what Miss Tiffany mentioned. And also you need to be extremely alert, because you will never know what the child will do, because some child, they might actually hit their head, or they will just go to a very sharp places, or they might sleep and everything. You will need to be extremely alert to focus on the child. And also like what Ms. Tiffany mentioned, that you will need to actually prepare some methods that is suitable for the child's learning and their development milestone as well. But I believe that in a certain school, the classroom teacher, they might have their own certain expectation. And it's very hard for us, Shadow 8 teacher to actually fade off, because I believe that it's not easy for the classroom teacher to actually manage children, a group of children, and not maybe there's one more extraordinary child that they need extra support. That's why they couldn't actually manage that. Therefore, they hope that the Shadow 8 teacher, they would just stay there forever. So it's just to help them off with the child as well. So it's very hard for us to fade off if the classroom teacher didn't they should actually put in much more observation on that child itself. I believe that in school, I was a preschool teacher before, and I know the workload is crazy. It's really, really crazy that they have lessons plans, they have reports, they have meetings, on and on. So it's very hard for us to fade off as well, so that the child can be independent. It's really a very challenging task, unless they actually can hire an extra learning assistant, which just to help out the teacher's job. And then slowly the learning assistant teacher can actually take over the Shadow 8 teacher role, and she can slowly fade off, but she's still in the environment itself, but she just let the child to be independent. So this is what I see as a PLA, because I realize that when I'm a PLA, they actually kind of think that you are the teacher for the classroom, not for the child. So you are the teacher to help out the whole class, and to actually cater to other children, but not your child. Yeah, so it's very hard for us to fade off as well. So I believe that we need a good communication and a good community, and also in the school compound itself, we need to actually have meetings on how to actually deal with the fading off, how to get this child to be independent. I know it's not easy to have everyone to focus on the particular child, because there's more children, a lot of children there, and we need to be fair, right? But I do hope that we can, in the future, we can actually figure out a way to actually cater to this child needs, and how can we make them flourish, and then they can actually grow on that particular point as well. We can work as a team, we can grow as a class instead of like just the child.
Yeah.
This is why.
So now that we're talking about like the jobs, right? Like what shadow teachers do. So I'd like to pick out some questions from our chat for y'all to answer. So one of our audience have asked, I would like to know how to identify if my child needs a shadow teacher.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am. Please do.
Yeah. I would say really to get an assessment. Yeah, assessment is available by educational psychologists or school psychologists, who is currently more and more available in Klang Valley and in Malaysia right now, especially in Klang Valley. It's helpful to see the gap, like, how large is the gap of our child currently compared to the targeted peer age that we are trying to integrate our child in. And, we all wanted our child to go into a normal school. We do not want our child to we have expectations for our child, but at the same time, for our children, it has to be realistic as well. Because all special needs children can bloom and can grow and can learn if the environment provided to him or her is stimulating enough and is comfortable enough, but sufficiently stressful, good stress to promote learning for our children. So, a lot of efforts now we're trying to push our children into the mainstream system, into the current system. So we are trying to look at, 7-year-old, let's look at 7-year-old classroom. 7-year-old, must go 7 years for classroom. But as an adult, like as a parent or even an adult in the education system, we might really learn to, special needs children really teach us how to think out of the box, look at the child personally as a person. Yeah, sometimes we forgot, like every children is a person, the person's needs, the person's ability. Is the system suitable for this child? If not, if we set the environment, the everything will come in order. Child's learning will be in order as well. So have an assessment done to check the gap, the skills gap from school's gap, from the child's skills gap, to identify whether is there any delay of years is necessary, how much support is this child needed, is the classroom available. Let's not focus so much on whether shadow teacher is needed or not. Yeah, shadow teacher can be a catalyst to have inclusion happen, but let's look at the classroom environment, the education system, the learning, the syllabus that's being used, the learning method that's being used in the classroom, whether it's suitable for the child or not. So I think that's more crucial to decide key items to look at in deciding in mainstreaming our children, SEN children, into the mainstream setting. Yeah, so having a shadow teacher or not, there will be a catalyst to enable inclusion to take place.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just jump in?
Yes, sure.
Sorry. Yeah, I think totally agree with whatever Miss Yu Ying said, about like the gap and all of that. But I think there may be some of us, some parents as well, who already has kids in school, and now they're asking, okay, how do I know if the child needs a shadow aid, or how do we, go about it? So I think there are a few things that we can see in the child. So a few things that they may find challenging is maybe, communicating with their teachers and friends in class. If you see that, there may be struggles there, they may not know how to make some friends, or, just those areas as well. Maybe they may struggle in following instructions. They may struggle with following classroom rules. And also, I think just not knowing how to sort of, lack of better words, like behave, in a classroom setting, and also struggles in concentrating on a certain task in school, or maybe feedback from the teachers have been, the child has not been able to, follow instructions, not be able to follow the class as much. So I think those are the signs, and that may trigger you to, maybe start thinking about, okay, maybe I would want to, get some support from a PLA or from a shadow aid as well. So I hope those are.
I completely agree with Miss Tiffany. From the school's perspective, definitely we do tell our parents the signs when it starts showing. It's usually when the child is not able to communicate needs. Now, those are basic needs such as going to the toilet. So sometimes the child might, wet himself right then and there. Not being able to communicate when they're feeling scared or when they're feeling sad. We also have children who struggle self-regulating. Now, that's when they're struggling. When they're sad or when they're angry, and they even with the support or the guidance, so say, okay, all right, when you're angry, let's calm down, and they're still struggling with that, or they're still struggling to understand what the teacher's saying. That's also a sign as well. We also have children who struggle to access the learning, and that could be from different ways. It could be that it's an auditory barrier, or it could be a visual barrier. Now, when we try to identify where those barriers are and how they reflect the child's learning needs, that's when we might say, okay, all right, would a shadow teacher support that? Or is it more than just a shadow teacher? And that's just where Miss Yu Ying is saying, is if it's no more than a shadow teacher, that means maybe it's the education system, maybe the environment is not suitable. So it's looking from a small aspect and then going bigger and bigger and bigger, because at the end of the day, if you put a shadow teacher there and the shadow teacher is not being is not supporting the need, that means there's an underlying issue that needs to be supported first. So maybe the child needs extensive therapy first. So sometimes I do have conversations with parents saying, we don't want to waste the child's time because they're precious. They're so precious. We don't want them feeling like, oh, I don't like learning because I've experienced learning for a whole year and I hate it. Obviously, who would love learning if you have had learning and not learned anything at all, right? So, and we don't blame the child. How would the child cannot learn if they've not been equipped with the right tools? So you want to equip the child with tools. So if the child has struggled,
sorry, Miss Diana, just on that one point, what you just said, you want the child to be equipped. Sorry to cut you there, but so do shadow teachers get to contribute to curriculum?
When you mean curriculum, do you mean what the teacher is teaching? Or when you mean tools, as in when I mean tools, it's what the child needs, not necessarily what the teacher is teaching.
Either way, both ways. Does the shadow teacher gets to, and does he or she have a say?
In the curriculum per se, what's being taught, no, because that is being set by the curriculum. So for example, we are a British run-based curriculum, so that is already a national curriculum that we're following. But how the shadow teacher differentiates for that child, yes. So for example, maybe the whole classroom, they're doing a task on let's just say writing a sentence on how they felt going to a circus, for example. Now maybe the child with the special education needs may not be able to write a sentence, may not be able to write any sentence for the matter, or any word for that matter. So maybe that child's output is being able to match pictures to pictures, or being able to match pictures to words, and eventually come to a point where maybe the child can then start writing words. So yes, to a degree of how much that child can do, it depends on the shadow teacher. Similar to what all our speakers have said, it's what the teacher, what the shadow teacher is doing with that child, being able to problem solve and creatively think about resources and materials for that child to be able to access the curriculum. So yeah.
Okay, maybe not curriculum then, but how about the IEP? The IEP. Does the shadow teacher have a say in that at least?
In my school, yes, definitely, because the shadow teacher is the person who is spending the most time with the
Yeah.
with the child.
Yeah.
So we always say that the IEP has to be it has to be proposed by the shadow teacher, but it also should be discussed with everyone else so that it involves everyone's opinion. Because for example, maybe the parents want the child to be able to do this at this stage, but at the same time, that may not be the current priority. Maybe from a school's aspect, another target is a priority. So normally we have a discussion with the parents, we have a discussion with the shadow teacher, we have a discussion with the case supervisor, we also have a discussion with the classroom teacher and the special education needs supervisor, so that IEP is all discussed everywhere. Everyone has got ideas there,
So then, okay, so like that's a very strong point there. So you've got all the stakeholders involved, right? But of course, the stakeholder that's most emotionally invested is the parents. So how easy or difficult when you're talking about things like this is it to, like, the reality is one, expectation is one. How do shadow teachers or how do you all bridge that gap of like that expectation versus reality? Because parents would want something, and as the shadows or as the special needs teachers or interventionists, you all may have a different opinion or a different ball game altogether. So how does that work?
I think we forgot the most important stakeholder of all this.
The child.
The child.
Yes. Yes.
Recently I've learned from also special needs Asanko head from a private school, and then she will say, we practice this, having a child to sit in and set his own direction and his own goals. Like, you are empowering a child to do it for himself. And then, he takes the lead. And that's also one of the criteria towards independence. Like, child, they don't feel like they are a burden. They don't feel like, I have this special person walking next to me all the time. My friends see me and see her also, they back off already. I can talk louder because I've got an adult with me all the time, So sometimes empowering the child themselves is an important task. And we are so caught up with what should we do for him? What should we do for her? But what does she really needs?
I completely agree, Miss Yuka. I completely agree.
I agree.
In fact, if they're old enough, right? If they're old enough to say, I completely agree, all the way they should be able to set their own targets. We have our year 5 and year 6 children being able to do that. But I have tried that with my earliest child, saying, all right, tell me what you want to be able to improve in. Chocolate.
Yes.
So,
we have tried it as young as long as the child can actually tell. But of course, we do controlled choice, would you like to would you like to go more for music class? Because music class is something that she's afraid of. Would you like to work better with Miss Miss Katie? Miss Katie is someone.
No, I get what you mean. I completely agree.
That's really fun, and we can really hear totally different perspective for them, because we think so much for them and we forgot to see from their perspective. It's their experience, their life.
Yeah. But then with all due respect to parents out there, right, there are some parents who are, let's use the word, a little challenging. They I don't want to use the word pushy, but they would want certain things to be done, so how, I don't know, is that the most challenging part of being a shadow / a special needs teacher? Is parents the most challenging part, or what's the most challenging aspect?
I would go first.
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't say a challenging task, but I would find it actually quite interesting, because some parents, they would want things fast. They want the child, their what they call that, their goal is to make sure that as they grow older, they're able to take care of themselves. How are they going to face the society, how society are going to judge them, and how are they going to, to adapt to all this type of environment. So there's some certain expectation that they want the child to be this, they want the child to be that. When I want my child to go to, the normal schools, the private schools. I don't want them to go to home schools and everything. But we as a professionals, we would need to actually to tell them, okay, let's look at your child. Okay, what can you see from a child? What you want from a child first. First of all, we need to put the basic platform. We will need to actually tell them like straight to their face that I know that you have your concerns, I know that you have your goals, but we will need to be a very realistic here to, let's just say, maybe we can start off, maybe we need your child to actually to sound A-E-I-O-U, the vowels, and slowly we'll go like, maybe we want your child to request first, so that in the future they will be able to request and tell you that I want this, I want that, and slowly we would actually want them to actually to respond to us, to accept. That is one of the part of the what they call the domains: expressive communication and receptive communication. They will need to learn that first. So we will need to actually explain to the parents what we need first before we can move forward to your expectation. Yeah, definitely. We know that the parents are actually, they just want to protect their child. I would put it in term. They just want to protect their child. They want the best for the child. That's why they are willing to spend this amount of money to give them the best of therapy and to hire shadow aid teachers and to give them the best of curriculum, to actually join the best facilities of schools and everything. But they have forgotten that giving the best, first of all, you will need to understand your child. What is your child's basic needs, the real needs of them first, and slowly we can build it up from there. Yeah, and if you ask like, how are we going to manage the parents? To be honest, my style, I'll be really straightforward with the parents. Yeah, I wouldn't say that, oh, I'll promise you that we will do this. We don't give false promises, because false promises will hurt them even more. So what we need to do that we actually listen to their concerns, and then we can tell them the point of view, and to actually to draw them back to see, okay, what is the real one? What is the real deal here? What should we actually to aim for, to work for? Yeah, so this is mine.
And I think to add on to that is not necessarily like shooting them down, like shooting the expectations down. But I think at the end of it, we need to help them understand that despite all of these things, there is still hope, that your child can still learn, just with added support, or just that your child may need some time, but it's not to say your child cannot learn. How, I guess, because we all grew up in Asian families, right? In the Asian culture, where we're just like, okay, let's be the best, let's be number one, gotta be the best at everything. And once that is not achieved, then it's like, oh, everything is a failure. But actually, I think what we need to start shifting perspectives on is that, hey, everybody learns at a different rate, and if your child needs a support, it does not mean that your child is a failure, that it just means he needs support, and it's as simple as that. And I think on our end, our role is to help them understand that, hey, we are here as a team to help your child move, help your child progress. And it's not to say, so yes, we be realistic with them, but I think at the end of the day, the underlying message is that, hey, there's still hope with your child. Yeah.
All your child needs is time. I would say all your child needs is time. Don't rush things. To all the parents out there, don't rush things. All your child needs is time. There will be a certain improvement that you will see, like a stepping stone. So don't rush things. Just go with the child's flow, and to see how their functionality, how it works, and how can we make that better. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions that that's on the meeting chat. So I'm just gonna ask them, right? So any one of y'all feel free to answer. Are shadow teachers assigned to certain special needs students based on a set of criteria like private tutors? Because typically our parents specific in what they look for in a shadow teacher, or it's more like when there is a supply, there will be demand. This was by CV Kiang at 10:16, if all of you are able to look at the chat. And then there's another two by Kimberly, how shadow aid teacher can help in socialization with the peers, and how different or difficult, I'm not sure what that TIFF means, is getting a shadow aid or putting our kids in an inclusive setting school. So would any of y'all want to take any of these questions? A moment to read.
I'm happy to answer Kimberly's question.
Yes.
So she
What
asked
difference? Okay.
how shadow aid teacher can help in socialization with the peers.
Yeah.
From a school's perspective, now what we want is for the child to be able to make friends, to maintain friends, and to be able to, to feel happy within that environment. So a shadow teacher may be able to support with the initiation of it. So, oh, how about would you like to have your lunch today with child B? Or would you like who would you like to have lunch today with? Would you Are you comfortable with this person? Are you comfortable with this person? So that's one way of a shadow teacher helping that child, because sometimes, more often than not, it's not just children, we adults as well, when we're put in a new environment, or even an environment that's not new but faces that we're not familiar with, or faces that we are not we're not friends, we're not friends with. We tend to just sit back and think, okay, how do I talk to this person? I don't know what do I say. So that child needs that confidence booster. That child needs someone to say, hey, it's okay even if you say the wrong things. It's okay even if you just say hi, or it's okay if you just stare at the person in the eyes. That's a step, right? So that's what we want our child to be able to do. We want our child to be able to communicate with other children, and that shadow teacher may support that. That shadow teacher may also support within. Okay, that child. A friend might suggest to the special needs child, hey, do you want to play? And sometimes some children will just stare at you and not answer, and the other kids might think, okay, this kid doesn't want to play with me, bye, and they run away. So they get the wrong idea. But actually, that special needs child is probably thinking, I do want to play with you, I just don't know how to say yes. So that shadow teacher might support that. They actually, she says yes. She wants to play with you. She just doesn't know how to say yes. So yes, why don't you go play together? So it's almost communicating for that child. Or helping that child communicate. I mean, eventually, we don't want the shadow teacher to answer for that child. Eventually, we want that shadow teacher to step out and just watch that child say, yes, I do want to play with you. But of course, it takes time. So it is that process that allows, that gives that special needs child the confidence and the tools to be able to do it on their own. So that is how that child can then socialize with their peers.
Can I continue from
Yes,
the
ma'am.
socialization part? Yeah. So like just to share experience with Taylor's International School, KL, that we are working with. So, like what Miss Diana said, that's the earlier part of, getting like one-on-one, getting, encouraging the peers to have more positive experiences with our children on the spectrum, yeah, or children with special needs. So for the peers to feel that, hey, she's quite fun, she's quite good to play, she got a lot of ideas, even though she's very quiet most of the time. So empowering and encouraging more positive experiences, one-on-one experience first. Then a shadow aid, or for us, we have transformed it into a social coaching. Means this child, we are focusing more on socialization only, because once we build up the friendship circle, that can also be one criteria for fading off a shadow. Because once a child already have a group of friends, that's what we all do in our school. Got problem, we don't find teacher, we go find our friend first. We forgot to do homework, we find our friend and silent first, right? So like having the peer support group is also very, very crucial to build up with, as main criteria for us to fit ourselves out. So from 1-to-1, we encourage to a small group. So sometimes the shadow aid will have to have their sports shoes on. They will have to be the football person, hold a football. Hey, want to play football or not? Come, let's play football. Then once they initiate the game, and then the shadow aid fade off, and then have someone in the group who will initiate that play tomorrow. Hey, tomorrow want to play or not? Adam, how about you are the one that who bring the ball tomorrow, okay? Things like that. Then sometimes I will think, hey, today's stomach ache, cannot, Adam, you go and play with everybody. So eventually we want to have more positive experiences in the social setting, because that's the most crucial and most strong support for any children with hiccups in a school environment. And I would like to share what Taylor's KL is doing is that, the Shadow Aid actually work closely with the counseling department. They have 2 counselors there, and counselors actually set up this mentor and mentorship program where they actually have a structured club where the mentors and the mentees are fixed to have conversations weekly. So they make friends through that. And my kids and my adolescents really enjoy the whole process, because they get a fixed opportunity to have someone to speak to them, which they want so much, but it's very hard to do it in a free flow setting. And then it advances more to lunch buddies. They have this lunch bunch once or twice a week, where they have this club activity where all the mentor mentees will have a lunch date, like in school settings. So that's where we as a social coach, we are, lepas tangan already. It's like, it becomes natural. Then friends are the one who ajak already. So no longer we are the ones that will ajak. And our children will have more confidence in socializing setting. They would somehow brave themselves to ajak as well. So that's a very beautiful progress that we have.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So maybe could I get Fiona and Tiffany to answer on the earlier question, like, are shadow teachers assigned to certain special needs students based on a set of criteria, like private tutors? Yeah, that question that we just read earlier. So maybe if one of y'all could address it.
I'll go first.
I think Fiona,
sure.
You work as a
because it's relevant to what you're doing, you see?
Yes, correct.
So are parents specific in what they look for, or is it based on supply demand basis?
I wouldn't, to be honest, I can't actually give you like a set of criteria or whether the shadow teacher assigned to it, because for me,
so how does it work? Maybe like Tiffany and you could tell us, like, how does it actually work? Because y'all are in that process, unlike us, we know, okay, a child is assigned, but what are the thought process, or what actually goes into it when they're assigned to a shadow?
I think it really depends on which avenue parents are looking at to get the PLA or the shadow aid. So for example, if they come to EAP, we are not just doing school shadowing per se, because we also do therapy session. So then most of the time, if not all the time, the PLA or the shadow aid is actually the child's therapist themselves. So going in as their shadow aid, and then probably in the afternoon or so, continue therapy with the child. But then if, for example, like maybe what Fiona has done previously is a freelance sort of method where they reach out individually to that shadow aid or that learning support, and then hire them. So then that's specifically for the child only and just for school shadowing itself. So then they don't do therapy after that. So then there's different avenues. So depending on how parents or where parents look at.
So Fiona, when you were freelance, do you get to choose which student you want to work with?
No, because I was directly contacted by the parents itself.
So you can't say no?
I was there just to assign the child. So what I did was I am the person that I would love to take challenges. So what I did was I told the parents that I would need to observe your child first and to see what I can do for your child. I think that instead of the parents set the criteria for us, I think parents' criteria is just that Are you able to help my child? Do you have the patience? Do you have the compassion for my child? Can you love my child like how I love my child? Can you protect my child when they're in a different settings? Are you able to do that? Yeah, I think that is most of the parents' concern on the criteria. And for us, it's like, what are you willing to do for your child? If we want to work with this, we have to work hand in hand. Yeah. And as for the private tutoring, I would think that maybe the parents would want like extra tutor from the shadow aid itself. They would need to communicate with the shadow aid itself. So for this answer, there is no right or wrong, or there's no like a clear-cut answer. Yeah.
So as a shadow aid, do I get to say, oh no, I'm not very confident in working with us autistic, so I don't want to? Is that possible or no? Like, because as a shadow aid, yes, you are supposed to be able to help all type of disability, right? I mean, ideally that would be the case, but some people, depending on severity, depending on the type of disability, they may have their own hesitations and stuff. So from your experiences.
From me, I think that, sorry, Miss Yu, you can go first.
Sorry.
It's okay, you can go first, no worries.
I think it's very important for us in the service line, especially in the special needs, to serve accordingly to our competency.
Correct. Correct, because you don't want to just take on for the sake of let's say money, or for you want clientele, and then you're not able to give your best, because each of us will have naturally some people are good at working with autistic kids, some people are much better at dealing with ADHD, it just comes naturally to some. So keeping that in mind, does the shadow aid have the liberty to say yes and no?
I think it's not just liberty, it has to be a responsibility of basic ethics and professionalism to really say what you can do and what you cannot do. So even for us, who's in the field for 6-7 years, and if we are, our areas of expertise are with children on the spectrum, if I am being, called on to serve for a child with Down syndrome, I will have to be honest that, even though I have 15 years of experience, but with Down syndrome children, I have actually none. So if you would like me to trust me, then I have to do some homework first and get myself a supervisor that have experience in this area to supervise me in my work. Yeah.
You wanted to say, you want to add on?
Miss Yu actually just said everything that I want to say. Thank you, Miss Yu.
Okay, so where can they go and get a supervisor? Can I just walk in and say, hey, Miss Tiffany, you're from EAP, can you be my supervisor? Can I? Really? That easy?
So unfortunately, we don't provide that kind of service at EAP. So usually our kids are our EAP kids who are running therapy already, are going for therapy already. So I know there are freelance supervisors out there as well. And I think it's a lot to do with word of mouth and just connections that you just find the right people as well.
So a freelance, so you've got a freelance therapist who either can work with children or they may be able to supervise. So a freelance teacher will have to find a freelance supervisor. They can't be attached to like any organization or any place. How does that work?
For can I? Yeah. It is important, like for all of us in the service industry, especially working with children with special needs in therapy setting. No matter, even supervisors have supervisors to supervise us how we supervise. So it is just it is a very good established system to be on track and knowing what we do and ensuring that we are on track all the time. So let's say a freelance shadow teacher, you have graduated, you have attended a course or two and would like to go into shadow teacher, you can actually get supervised by related experienced people from the ABA field. Yeah, you can actually go to the BACB website, look into Malaysian setting, and then there will be supervisors available that you can actually contact and seek for supervision. Sometimes you can also seek for, like peer supervision. For example, if Miss Diana is in the school setting, and then she's very good with children with dysgraphia, for example. So I might seek her like, hey, Miss Diana, can I ask you, can you supervise me on this? I'm creating a program for children in this area of difficulty. So it is a practice. It is a formal and also an informal practice in the field. That we would like to encourage everybody and let everybody know, especially you're going freelance because you're on solo. It's important to get to work in a team and supported and get ongoing learning happen so that we are on track, so that the children really benefit from us.
Yeah.
Can I talk?
Yes, you mean, I feel like a class teacher already.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, please go ahead.
Okay, based on my experience is that it's very important to have a team or a supervisor because I work alone and it was really, really stressing me out and it's really a burnout. And you will, because you don't know how to solve this, you try every single method that you would actually help the child and everything, but somehow it doesn't work and you have no one to go to. So maybe like what Miss Ewing said, you can actually go search for help or supervisor, or you can join some online group and everything that they are willing to share, because it's better to work with a team or people. I was really lucky enough that I have friends who is a therapist as well and a shadow aid teacher, so they are able to provide me some insights. But to be honest, if without them, I think that I'll be literally burned out. So you really need a team, or you really need to search for like a good supervisor or like a friend or people that you might know, maybe a lecturer or something. So you really need to search help. If not, to all shadow teacher out there, you really need a team instead of working alone, because more people, there's more ideas and there's more solutions as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I completely agree to that. And Google doesn't answer the questions. Yeah, you can Google, how do you help a child when it doesn't answer the question? I can tell you, I've had my parents say, I Google this, and then the Google doesn't answer my question. I said, I'm so sorry to tell you that Google doesn't answer your question, because Google will answer the general question, like this is how you might solve this and this is how you might deal with this. But situations that are personalized to specific situations, it needs to come from experienced individuals, experienced professionals. And not only that, sometimes we just need that emotional support. We just need someone to tell us what we're thinking, what we're doing is correct, or we're
just
the right
that validation, isn't it? That confirmation that, you know what, you've not lost it yet. You're on the right track.
Correct. Because at the end of the day, we're working with vulnerable children, and we ourselves will become vulnerable. So we need our support as well. The child needs a support system, but those working with those kind of children also needs a support system. So yes, definitely Google. Do not Google, parents. Please don't Google.
Mr. Google can't answer all the questions, to be honest.
Yes, please don't. Google is not your answer.
Yeah, okay. So the problem of having this conversation with four passionate ladies is that we can go on talking, but unfortunately, we got to start wrapping up because we're in the last 10 minutes. So I'm just going to quickly get you all to answer the last few questions. How different is it getting a shadow aid versus putting a child in an inclusive setting school? And how about national school setting? Are parents allowed to have shadow aid teachers? And then the last question will be about the most important question that everybody wants to ask. How are shadow teachers paid? So I'll come to that at the end. So if I could just get an answer for this too.
How different is getting a shadow aid or putting our kids in it?
Getting a shadow aid versus putting the child in an inclusive setting.
You could still get a shadow aid and put the shadow aid in an inclusive setting school. It's not one versus the other. It is what the child needs. So, for example, if your child is already in an inclusive school, but it's not able to access the curriculum, perhaps because the child has wider needs than what the school can offer, then a shadow teacher is able to bridge that gap. Then that's what the child may need. But it may not be permanent. It may not be a 1 year thing. It might just be a 6 months. It might just be, short term. It really depends, because every child's learning, as what all the ladies have mentioned, every child's learning pace, every child's learning abilities are all different. How much that child is able to absorb, how much that child is able to take in, and then progress and show that they understand, that they are able to learn, is different for every child. So you have, as a parent, it's not easy for you to see this because you are not in that school. So you will need your teacher's eyes. You need to also see it from if the child is attending a therapy at a center, then you also may need to discuss this with the therapist. So it really depends on what that child's needs are. So if the child's needs, for example, is purely an educational need, and therefore the inclusive school covers that, then great. But if, for example, that child needs to access other types of learning, or other types of needs with the support of someone with that child for a temporary basis, then why not? I mean, again, like what Miss Yu Ying say, eventually a shadow teacher's job is to fade off and lose her own job. So we don't want something that where the child's reliant on someone forever. So we want that child to be able to be equipped with the tools. So if I can answer that question, it would be, it's not different. It depends on what that child needs, and it depends on what the school can offer or provide for that child.
Yeah, and are we allowed to have shadow aids in government schools, or like do any of y'all support that? Like support children who are in government school setting?
I think I'm not very sure, but I have learned from a sharing from parents in NECIC conference recently, and also a parent who is doing shadowing currently. There is a way that you will have to work with there is a course that you can actually apply, that you can go in, like OT and SD are allowed to go visit in school classroom, but having shadow aid teachers, I think there is arrangement that has to be done through PKHAM, I think.
Okay.
Any Sunny or Diana, do you all have any ideas about this?
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure. Yeah, because we do have pendidikan khas schools
Correct.
covered by the government school. So I'm not sure if within the government school themselves are they allowed, judging from the number of students they have within the classroom, and the capacity, I don't think a shadow aid teacher would be able to access that. And then the shadow aid teacher needs to work closely with the classroom teacher, planning, being able to sort of eventually pass the reins to the classroom teacher, right? So I don't think as a government school teacher that is possible, because the number of students they have in that classroom, I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's not 20. I'm pretty sure it's way more than that, right? I think it can go up to 40. So how does a classroom teacher like that cover all that, plus having to work with an adult that's constantly needing you to kind of co-plan with and work with closely, while at the same time working with the school, trying to do planning and marking and all that. So as a government school teacher, that I'm not quite sure, but I don't think it's very possible. But I wouldn't be able to say for sure.
Yeah, Tiffany, you want to just add on before we wrap up?
Honestly, from experience, we have not had the best chances in going into government schools. So some of our parents have requested, if we are able to support their kids in government schools. Even Pendidikan has schools. So far we've not had the we are willing to go in, but the system doesn't allow us to go in and just really have that working relationship as best as we would want to have it with like a private school, for example.
So the system doesn't allow you, but then if they want to come out and take you all as additional, like outside, that's possible.
So then it's like external therapy sessions already.
Yeah, so add on externally.
Yeah, so they come after school to us.
Yep.
Yeah, and we run therapy sessions with them.
Okay, and the $1 million question. What is the market rate for Shadow 8?
There's no rate.
I mean, they do get paid. So how much do I get paid if I'm a Shadow 8?
It's not a regulated role. So we have ranges. I have heard like, if you're servicing an expat family, you can hit up to 7,000-8,000 a month, but I'm not sure how legit and how frequent that opportunity has. We have as low as fresh graduates charges like 2,500-3,000. Yeah. Commonly, if you are a behavior therapist or you are a certified RBT or BCABA, the rate can go higher a little bit if you're freelancing. Yeah. So it's a huge range. But I would say it's very important to really charge accordingly to what you know, and to align yourself with the market so that we can keep this profession as a profession that is a good opportunity, a job opportunity for all, and then at the same time, it is something that can contribute to development of inclusive community in Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ms. Ying, like I like what you said, Shadow 8 must be willing to lose their job, right? So what's the earliest they can lose their job? 3 months?
Well, it depends on the criteria. They go back to really the criteria of getting a shadow at the first place. The purpose of including a child in your environment. Yeah, because just now the question we talk about, what are the special skills that Shadow 8 teacher has that teacher do not have. I would say that whatever that we know is to enhance learning. And if classroom teacher really learn, which we do have teachers who have learned, pick up our strategies, classroom management is much more a bliss. And the strategy that works for our children works for all children, even for adults too. So I would say that's not so much of skill differences, but more of another person who's providing support to the classroom, to the teachers, to the friends, to the peers, and to the school to ensure inclusion can happen. And I really hope that this effort of having our children with SEN to be included in mainstream school would be much easier and much more accessible for all in a very, very, very short time in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to close, I'm going to ask 2 questions. So the first question I would ask Fiona and Tiffany. Now, because they are younger, I don't want to use that word, but what kind of changes do you see in this special needs area industry within the next couple of years? And for Miss Ying and Miss Diana, since you all are a little bit more at a more senior and more management level, what kind of advice, if you are to give an advice to students who are interested in this, what would your advice be? And I think that would be a very nice way to wrap up. So could I get Fiona and Tiffany to go first, and then Miss Ying and Diana?
Miss Tiffany, is it okay if I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I would say that in this industry, as a Shadow 8 teacher, this position, it will never extinct. I would say that there's no robot or not any technology can actually replace this, career, because we will need to work hand in hand with the child. So what would change? I believe that in the future, there are much more people are going to be aware of personal learning assistant and shadow aid, and there will be much more centers are going to open to actually assist the children and the parents' needs as well. So I would think that in this industry, as a shadow aid teacher or special learning education system or the education system, nothing could replace that. Yeah, I would say that. It's gonna be much more better in the future, as there will be a lot of awareness, a lot of talks, a lot of sharings, a lot of centers and educational centers are gonna be there to help them. And I believe that all these corporations and the partnerships between, like, for example, tailors with some centers and some hospital with some centers, they do actually know how to recommend the parents to go reach centers to help. So I think that yeah, it's not gonna be a very down point change, but it's gonna be like a very up point change, and it's gonna be a very beautiful change. That I would say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I think what I hope at least that will happen. I mean, we all don't know what will happen in the future, but I guess we all have that hope and dream where I think the awareness definitely will be increased. Because I think previously, if you asked like 20 years ago, like what is autism or like what is shadow aid, like nobody would know, but then now there's so much of all these as well. So awareness is definitely one. But I think the other thing that definitely we want to see change in parents, in educators, in schools is really that whole inclusivity, but also child centricity. So then the focus is really, on how to help that child succeed, how to help that child progress in life. It may be in a mainstream setting, it may be in a supported setting, but I think the focus should be on how to work how to support that child in particular and helping them, get along in life and be supported and be independent eventually. So I hope, especially in Malaysia, we're heading towards that direction as well. And then just hearing all the different sharings today, I'm sure we are in a right direction. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, thank you. And so Miss Yuying and Miss Diana, for all passionate people out there, for students, what advice would you, a parting word or a word of wisdom for those who are interested in this career path?
Diana,
You want me to go first? In this field, I'd say a parting word. Oh my.
Word of wisdom.
Word of wisdom. I'd say I'm not quite sure really. I would say definitely, get your experience. Don't be afraid to apply anywhere. Don't be afraid to work in different organizations. I've worked in a church. I've worked in a clinical environment. I've worked in a small school. I've worked in a big school. I've worked in all environments, even those that I even said a Christian prayer for my Christian SEN special education needs child for the sake of that child. So do not be afraid to challenge yourself. Do not be afraid to experience all the different things, because you will learn so much. You will learn how to deal with a child. You will learn how to just your own self, what do I want? What kind of special teacher do I want? What kind of teacher do I want to be? And yeah, being in different environments as well can really make you identify what you really want to be, and just knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and knowing what's your next steps. Miss Yuying, go ahead.
I would really like to highlight for education, teacher in training, education students, that special education is not special, it's not a separate entity. Special education is part of education as a whole. Yeah, strategies that is applicable for in special education, alternative way of learning is also part of education. So I would want to really applaud all teachers out there who is working very hard, stepping out of their comfort zone to really try to learn more and try to include children who is using different wavelength. Yeah, having different processor to learn in their classroom, to open doors to children with all children are different. Yeah. So as if you're an education student out there, please look into intervention. If this intervention industry, if this is the area that you would like to venture into, if you would like to look into inclusive education, yeah, after you graduate, come and look for, there's a lot of centers out there right now who's hiring, and we can't find people. We can't find good educators to be interventionists. So please, if you're graduating soon, look out for special education needs in Malaysia. There's a lot of job opportunities out there. Come and apply, come and try out the job. We special educators are teachers too. We are all teachers, we are skilled teachers. So yeah, come and venture out of the typical the pathway that typically you're designed for. We can do more together. So equip yourself, like what Miss Diana and everybody have said, Miss Tiffany and Miss Fiona said, equip yourself with more opportunities, venture out of a comfort zone. And yeah, inclusive community and inclusive education in Malaysia is not a dream. We are already halfway there, almost there. That's, yeah, we can do it together. Yeah. So teachers,
Yay.
join us as an interventionist.
This is like hard sale now. We are coming. Come
already.
join us on the dark side. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you very much for taking time on a Saturday to join us. So before we go, to show that I did work, can we please on the camera so that we can take a group photo before we leave? Miss Denise Dua, are you in the participant list? Yes, you are. Can I please trouble you to help me take a photo? Could we get everybody to switch on your camera, please? You're still here? Miss Denise? Adakah? Probably not here. Okay, so can we just have very quickly everybody to switch on your camera? And then we can just take a group photo and then, okay. So I don't know. Okay, I've got 2 pages here on my screen, so I don't know who is in which page. So just keep smiling until I am done. Okay. Okay, that's 1. Hang on. Hold on. Sorry. Let's work your muscles and just smile a little longer. And go into the second screen. Okay, I am done. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on a Saturday. Thank you once again. And we would be doing another event coming up in January. So just we will inform everyone. So just keep an eye out on special needs as well. So thank you once again. Have a good weekend. Stay safe and have a good lunch. Thank you, everybody. See you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.